Are you ready to take action to attain the lifestyle of your dreams?
It's a great way to make a lot of money fast.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Clever Investor Show. I'm your lucky host, Cody Sperber, the OG Clever Investor. We're in a different studio today. We're in the Hustlers studio. I got a couple different studios in my office space, and we felt the energy in this room was a little bit better for us. So if you're not seeing this on the YouTube channel, head over to our YouTube channel at Clever Investor, and you can see what I'm talking about. But we got all the motivational phrases behind us. This is the Hustler podcast studio. And the reason is because I got a hustler extraordinaire that came to visit me here in Tempe, Arizona at Clever Investor headquarters. We got a guy who has had a tremendous amount of success following a crazy ass story. You're gonna be really blown away at this guy's kind of, I don't even want to call it rags to riches. I want to call it like shit show to riches.
Yeah.
Shit show to riches story, which is fascinating to me. I love people that turn their lives around. I love people that win even after some major setbacks in life. I can totally relate to that. I think anybody listening to this story is going to relate to my guest for this week's episode of the Clever Investor Show is a wholesaler, a sales expert, an entrepreneur. The awesome Eric Clein is in the studio. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Thanks
and I appreciate you being here, brother. You know, this show is all about helping people kind of shift their mindset, get out of the rat race kind of mindset, and learn some things about real estate investing. We've been heavily focused on real estate. I've done tons of interviews with just different types of entrepreneurs and stuff out there. I'm going to love this one because you went from kind of this personal turmoil from military to personal turmoil to entrepreneur to scaling and rocketing, like on this rocket ship, this crazy business that's doing now $100 million a year business type of thing. Yeah. To massively crashing and burning, to somehow ending up in the real estate space, the wholesaling game. And now you're murdering it in the wholesale game. Yeah. You've had quite a story.
Yeah, it's been a journey, man. It really has. And thank you for having me on here. It's an honor, man. It's been a ride, and I just didn't give up, man. I go back to when that guy was looking at me during my lawsuit of losing my last company right before an exit. And he goes, if you can make it through this, you can make it through anything. Little did he know he was staring at a guy that had already been through a lot. And he just reminded me, just keep going.
Just keep going. Well, let's take a step back then and kind of unpack this, because I want to get to the real estate stuff here in a minute. But, you know, first off, you were in the military, the Navy.
I was an engineman.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Yeah. And we could have known each other. We were this close to actually being shipmates.
You went to San Diego. You should have went to Hawaii, but I was in Hawaii. And we could have been there.
Yeah. During the same time periods too. Yeah. And so, I mean, we're both seamen.
We are both seamen.
We started off as seamen. We ended up seamen. Yeah. Seamen recruits, seamen apprentices. To all my military people, you'll get that joke. Yeah. So you were stationed in Hawaii, and you did some time there, and then
I was supposed to do 4 years. I will say I got other than honorable discharge, and it's because I had a massive drinking problem that I couldn't control in the military, and they were done with me after 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you were just fighting this addiction.
Yeah. When I left the military after 2.5 years and went back to the civilian world, I ended up, progressing into ultimately the drug that brought me to my knees was crack cocaine.
Before we get into the crack cocaine story, because that's wild, let's take a small step back. Does your family have a legacy of addiction in it?
Father, yeah, he's an alcoholic. If you were to sit here and talk with him, he would say he's not. But knowing what I know, he's an alcoholic.
Your brothers and sisters?
No. I was a middle child. My older brother was the jock. always, him and my dad were always doing things. My younger brother was the mommy's boy, and I was in the middle, and just, man, I was a reckless, I was reckless. I ended up.
So they were cool. They never had any issues with any of that stuff, but you were the wild child.
I was the wild child.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how do you go from having an alcohol challenge? I mean, first off, anytime you get kicked out of the military is tough. Like it's a shit, it's not good. It's a shit show.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking, God, is this going to haunt me for the rest of my life?
Yep.
Right.
That's exactly
and I had some friends that, they love to smoke weed every once in a while, and they always thought they can get away from, work their, get lucky and not pop a drug test. And for years and I'd say, guys, you guys are just gambling with your future. Like, I just couldn't understand. Like, and trust me, I love to smoke weed. Back in the day, I was smoking weed all the time before the military. And it was like, it's not worth the risk to me. And so I stopped, but they kept going. And sure as shit, they popped, and both of them got dishonorable discharges. Yep. And to this day, it haunts them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure that was a scary process, but what transitioned from drinking to trying and getting addicted to crack cocaine? Because that's pretty heavy.
Yeah. Real. I mean, I used to always say I'd never be one of those guys on the street, never be one of those guys on the street. Ultimately, I became one of those guys. And it was, I remember, I went over to my cousin's house, and he was literally hiding behind a door in his garage. And he came out, and he was all bug-eyed and stuff like that. I'm like, bro, what do you want? And he wouldn't tell me. And I was like, whatever you were doing, let me get some of that.
That's your first thought? That's not my first thought. If I see some dude jump out behind a door like, what the fuck's going on? I'd be like, I'm not going to do whatever you're on. Your idea is like, dude, that shit looks fun as hell. Let's do some of this.
Let me get some of that. That was what, but here's the crazy thing, Cody. He was like, no. You're not messing with this. And then, so my cousin wouldn't let me get it the first.
So the crackhead was literally trying to tell you,
yeah,
you're not ready for this.
And then, let's just say a week later, because I don't know how much longer later, same thing, went over there, same scenario. And I was like, let me get some of this. And it was off to the races.
So how addictive is it? Is it like literally you smoke it once and like you're ready to go? Like you just want to keep doing it?
That's how it was for me, man. I mean, the story for me was once I picked it up, I couldn't put it down for 6 years. And I chased that dragon, that monster for years, like years. It didn't matter. I was robbing, cheating, stealing from everyone I loved. I mean, at the end, my family disowned me, not because they didn't love me. They couldn't deal with me. My last 8 days, I was locked in a room in Chicago for 8 days straight. The dope man would come to the back of the house, and I didn't sleep for 8 days. And I remember hearing the helicopters, the ambulance, the fire trucks, the police, everything. They showed up to my house, and the front door got kicked in. And I remember the ambulance rushing down the hallway with the stretcher. You can hear it. My mom was there crying hysterically, saying, leave him alone. He's dead. Don't go in there. My brother was out there arguing with the paramedics, saying, let me in. My brother's in there. And they calmed everybody down. They got my mom away. It was just this hallway. And I remember him lifting the stretcher up. I remember it like it was yesterday. Literally, if I get goosebumps. I don't talk about this a lot. And I remember they said on 3, we're gonna kick the door open. And I was in my bed, just in my underwear, sweating, literally sweating. And they said on 3, and they go 1, 2, and I get up from my bed, I throw the covers up, and I get up, and they say 2, and on 3, and I open the door, and I go, I'm fucking alive. And there was no one there. It was a power greater than me.
None of that was real?
None of it was real.
Wow.
There was a pint of vodka sitting on the table out in the hall, in the kitchen. And I put it in a Gatorade bottle and I slammed it because I couldn't get myself to go outside. And I had just enough money to catch a train back to my hometown.
That's when you started to realize like this shit's way out of control.
And I got clean August 9th of 2009.
Do you know why I love this story? That's my birthday.
Is it really?
You got clean on my birthday. This is amazing.
8909?
Well, not 09.
Oh, yeah. But
yes,
August 9th.
I'd be.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
August 9th, dude.
Yeah, what a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be born and reborn.
And reborn. Dude,
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
since that day, I left Chicago with $8, went down to Fort Lauderdale. Someone flew me down there. I literally went down there with 2 pairs of shorts, 2 white Hanes t-shirts, got checked into a treatment center. And when I was getting ready to get out of treatment, met my wife 3 days before I got out of the treatment center. She had 4 years clean already. And you're not supposed to date a guy in treatment if you're in the program.
Yeah.
Like there's this thing, you're not supposed to do that. And so she picked me up. I went and checked myself into a halfway house, and I didn't even have money to pay my rent. Like I was renting a bed that had bed bugs and all this shit. And I ended up getting my first crack on the phones in South Florida, which everything has changed since then.
You realize that like what? Sales was a gift that you always had, but you never actually used it, or you were just using it to get crack?
Well, I could go get crack.
Yeah, like because you had to support that habit that somehow, some way you had to enroll
I was
people.
broke.
Yeah, but
I had to manipulate and persuade people to give it to me.
Yeah.
And I did that for years. So when I got clean, like most of the tattoos you see I had when I got clean because I was a union carpenter in Chicago. So this was normal in Chicago on a union job site. So when I went down to South Florida, you can find illegals and all that to do your construct. Like it's nowhere for a white guy to go and have a career in the construction field. So I remember I was a busboy. That's what it was. I was a busboy for 2 weeks because I couldn't find a job. I was putting makeup on. She went and bought me some tattoo cover up. I got a job as a busboy. I was doing that for 2 weeks, taking a book because I didn't have a license, nothing. 28 years old, dude, riding a beat up mountain bike. And I remember after 2 weeks of working there, the guy handed me my check, and it was $146 for 2 weeks worth of work. We still have the check stub today. And I remember telling her for the first time when I was clean, I was like, fuck this. Fuck it. I want to go back to Chicago. And she's like, you just need to chill out. And dude, I went back to the halfway house, and there was a white piece of paper hanging on the door that said telemarketers wanted $15 an hour. And I called the place up and I'm like, listen, I'm in a halfway house. I got tattoos. I don't have a license. I only got 90 days clean. Do you still want to interview me?
Great, we'll take you.
That's
how that works. Network marketing and telesales. Great, we'll take you.
I shit you not. They're like, come on in for an interview.
Yep,
and I'm like, all right. And
that's why I love the sales profession.
Yeah,
it's just such a great profession for, because it's an equal opportunity.
And I do everything over a phone. I've never done this type of a sale where I was actually selling something. All of them, our businesses have been over the telephone, and yeah, man, it's been a crazy run.
Wow. That's an insane story. And so that was in 2009.
Yep.
So it's now been 16
Coming up
years?
on 15 years.
15 years? That's beautiful.
No alcohol, drugs, no mood or mind altering substances.
Nothing. Yeah, good. Well, good for you.
Yeah, man.
And obviously you're clean.
Over 18 years.
18 years. Wow, that's good to have that support. So you're the anomaly. Yes. The anomaly is, hey, every once in a while it can work for two people. It can work.
So we own the largest timeshare cancellation company in the United States.
Got it. So I'm stuck in a timeshare. I'm irritated because I feel like I either got a crappy deal or I'm over it and I want out. It's hard to cancel them.
Yep.
And you can't just sell your interest in a timeshare to somebody else?
It's not worth anything. It's not worth anything. The average timeshare would sell for $25,000. They would target a consumer base that can't afford 25 grand. So they would in-house finance the paper.
Yeah.
And 65% of our business model would be disrupting that paper.
So you would find how do you get somebody out of a timeshare if they have a contract?
So it was tortious, or it was deceptive sales practices.
So you would find that little loophole, come in, probably just make enough noise where they're like, fuck it, we don't even want to deal with this.
Yes.
We're going to account for 10% or 20% of every timeshare ever sold to have a problem that we're going to not want to deal with at some point anyway. So it's just a numbers game for them.
Yeah.
Got it. And the company that came after you, I don't understand how they obliterated you. Are they another timeshare cancellation company, or are they the timeshare company?
It was the timeshare company, which and
they got big pockets.
Yeah. We wound up in a lawsuit. And there was a guy in South Florida. His name is Jordan Zimmerman. It was the first billionaire I ever knew. And I remember when this all started, he goes, "You lost this battle before it started." He goes, "You need to set your ego aside and figure out how to settle this." Because our insurance company at the time wouldn't cover our lawsuit. And this is a 2.5-year battle where me and my wife were funding the lawsuit out of our personal bank account. We ended up having to shut down the company where we had, at the time, over 150 team members in our office.
As part of the settlement, you had to do this?
Well, we ended up filing a Chapter 11 on the business. We ended up filing a Chapter 11. They immediately appointed a trustee, which they took control of the company, and they ended up going down to like a skeleton crew of like 5 people.
Yeah. What was the biggest lesson in that? The whole experience. Great
question. So a couple for me. Don't have your eggs all in one basket. Like we were all in on that company. And I didn't have any other source of income. At the time, we were getting ready to sell. We were grossing about $34 million. We were netting, me and my wife were making really good money at the time. We had a $7 million home in Fort Lauderdale, a $2 million home in Chicago, a $2 million home in the Keys, the Rolls Royces, you name it. And we never thought something could happen to us. Ever. And so just being more smart, educated on money as we were having that conversation, as you were telling my 11-year-old son, because overnight, $8 million revenue stream got shut off. We had $11 million in homes just for ourselves.
Yeah. Expensive overhead.
We had, it was expensive to live. And now I'm married, kids, and as a grown man, I started panicking. Thank God me and my wife today are still together, because the lawsuit damn near ripped our marriage apart, and they were coming for our throats, man. So today,
I'm still trying to understand, maybe you can't talk too much about it. I'm still trying to understand, like, of course they're going to come after you. You're canceling their contracts,
yes.
Right? That's your whole business model is to disrupt their business.
Yes.
But if you can find a reason that they did a deceptive sales practice, for instance, and you get a consumer out of a bad contract,
yes,
then how do they shut you down? I'm still trying to understand.
Great question, Cody. So we made some wrong moves in the actual lawsuit. We went and hired I can call him a scumbag attorney. His name's irrelevant. That he's the one that was encouraging us to file a Chapter 11 on the company. I believe when we did that, that's ultimately the move we made that kind of was the beginning of the end.
But let's say I'm whipping ass and I'm doing $8 million and I get sued. It's like, yeah, there's going to be money being funneled over to like fight this lawsuit. But how did your business all of a sudden just go to shit to where you had to even think about filing Chapter 11? Was it because you thought you were going to lose the lawsuit?
No, because we wanted to protect ourselves from 5 more companies coming and suing us. They were they were trying to take our entire industry out.
Yeah.
So
why didn't you just go to everybody else in your industry and form an alliance?
So there was 2 other companies. We were trying to do that. And, in that industry, your competition, like you didn't talk to each other. It was very weird. It was our first time ever starting a company up. Yeah. And as big as it got, it happened real fast for us.
You would just think, common enemies create a little bit of a different environment to where maybe they would open up and say, okay, for our survival, we're going to work together. Yeah. That's interesting. So you realized afterwards, looking back, you made a couple strategic moves that were bad.
They weren't the smartest.
Yeah. Now, could you ever just go start that business again?
So I had to, part of my settlement was I had to injunct myself from the industry.
Forever?
Yeah.
Damn.
I know.
Wow.
I know. So, and that all happened in 2000. We finally settled everything in 2021. So it was like 2.5 years worth of just complete mayhem on all aspects of life. Not only business, financially, our marriage, our kids were in the middle of all of this stuff. You have your parents questioning how you go from here. And now you're on the news
So what are you left with?
After it's all said and done.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting across, Cody, after an 8-hour deposition. And I remember the attorney that was suing us. I was smoked after an 8 hours. And I was beat down. I was sitting at the end of the table. My hands were on my head. And he goes, "Hey, kid." And I remember looking up at him. And this attorney his eyes were real bloodshot. I don't know if he had an alcohol problem or what, but he was always beat red. And he looks at me and he goes, "If you can make it through this, you can make it through anything." And it was those words where I was like, they can take the company, but they can't take what I've learned over the last decade. So
it was a nice gift he actually gave you, even though he was kicking your ass.
He was whooping my ass.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know how many days later, I go back home and I tell Shyla, my wife, I woke her up and I was in the middle of the night and I was like, "Honey," I was like, "whatever they want, let's give it to them to get our life back, to get our marriage back on point and not to have the kids, go through this." And I remember saying, "Give me 1.5 years and I'll get it all back for us." And that's when I stepped foot into the wholesaling industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now you're using your skills for real estate.
Yeah. I mean, it's really the same model. Mm-hmm. I never got into wholesaling saying I was getting into real estate. I looked at the model itself and the model is identical to what I was doing for a decade. It was lead gen into my CRM, my system, put a closer on that lead and then fulfill it on the back end. It's the exact process. We were dealing with distressed homeowners. Distressed timeshare owners.
Yeah.
All we did was insert a different lead into the system. So
it makes sense.
It was.
Yeah. I mean, phone skills is, especially nowadays, it used to not be like that. When I first started, phones were important, but not nearly as important as they are in the last 5-10 years. Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense that you were able to translate that over. So how's the wholesaling business going?
It was good. First 12 months in the space, I didn't know what an ARV was, a crawl space. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to run a comp, none of that. First 12 months in the space, I did 2.6 million. I netted at 58%. I did 1.5. I did that with me and 2 closers. And then my wife handled TC and my buddy handled dispo in the deals. I personally, my first 12 months did 1.2 million and funded. Like I wanted to understand it before I started bringing a team on. So I did it by myself for the first 4 months. I could have easily went and hired a team, but I needed to put my ass back in the seat and understand what I was going to be hiring for.
It's funny that you say that because, so many people can learn that, how valuable that lesson is. I have a lot of real estate agents or people that did real estate, 10 years ago, but then they took 10 years off. They come back around and they go almost like, I'm too good to do that work.
Yep.
Now they have that energy. And it's like, I just watch them and I'm like, you know why you're going to fail this business is because you think managing is the business.
Yep.
Because you have this knowledge, like you're going to go fucking manage people. I'm going to hire the closers. I'm going to hire the dispo. I'm going to hire the TC. I'm just going to manage all these people. In theory, that sounds great, but that's not how it works when you're especially moving into a new space. The fact that you humbled yourself enough and said, you know what? I was given a gift. I could get on the phones. I'm a great closer. I'm great with people. I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to force the ball forward.
Yeah.
And then I'll build the team around me to keep up with me. And that just shows maturity in your processing as an entrepreneur. It's like, don't give me that, I'm too good for this shit. Like I'm going into the home flooring space right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We started a business called Floor Daddy. I've been a developer for many years and we built a lot of houses and I've been moving into commercial. But I always have 2 or 3 businesses that I'm scaling on the side. And I exited a business last year. I made 8 figures for the exit, which was awesome.
Congrats.
Yeah, it was my first exit, which is funny because I've owned anywhere between 3 to 5 businesses at a single time that were all doing either super high 7 figures or 8 figures all at the same time. And so I always had like businesses at a little bit of a scale. But I never exited any of them until just last year. And I finally, I exited it probably 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years too late. Meaning the arc of the business kind of went like this and I sold like on the down arc versus at the top when I could have probably got 3 or 4 times the amount for it. Yep. But I learned and I really got excited about selling businesses. So now I'm like, okay, what industries can I move into that I don't know much about, but I can, same as you, I could take the same skill set that I learned in generating my wholesale leads and for all my real estate businesses, generate all my online education leads and apply it towards this new business. Because once you have that skill set, you're good.
It's rinse and repeat.
And so we looked around and I said, all right, I like to buy and invest in business, or start businesses and invest in businesses that aren't easily disruptible in the near future. So I think about like AI and I'm like, wow, AI is going to disrupt a lot of industries. It's going to be really interesting to see over the next 3 years how many white collar jobs get smoked by AI, right? And like even phone sales, like there's going to be a AI selling bot that's going to do better than a human eventually. And I was like, okay, well, home services is not easily disruptible. You're always going to need a roof repair. You're always going to need an electrician. You're always going to need a flooring, like new kitchens and all that stuff. So I like that. It's not easily disruptible. I also like that it's heavily investable. These businesses are old school, tried and true. They're not sexy at all. Private equity loves them.
Loves them right now.
Yeah, when you get at scale, they're like, oh, you built a brand. You have a working machine. I spend $400K in ads and I make $2 million on the back end. It's a very simple old school business. It's like, and so I like that. I like the fact that it is an old school business ran by a bunch of boring ass old adults that aren't good at marketing.
Yep.
I took my same skills of like running an ad, a fun, engaging ad, to a book a call funnel, to a phone closer, to a get your butt out in person, to a high ticket close. And I love that model because it's a sales model. And I love working with sales guys because if you hire a team of sales killers, like everything just starts going. I can fill in all the, I don't know shit about flooring.
Right.
I don't know anything about the flooring business. I had to go in blind and just go, okay, I got to learn about this business, but I know the marketing business. I know the sales business, and I'm going to sell the shit out of flooring way better than any of these old school guys. And that's why I called it Floor Daddy, because I wanted it to be like sexy flooring, affordable prices, quality install. Like that was my vision. Like we're going to go like a little bit edgy with the marketing. And then I turned around and I went, okay, knowing me as an entrepreneur, I'm not the best person to like do any of this shit.
Right.
I need to like figure out how to build me an awesome team. So I started looking at the biggest players in our space, Empire Flooring, Express Flooring, all these guys that advertise. You see them on all the billboards, all the TV
That's
commercials.
Local here. Got it.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go steal all their fucking best people. Like, I don't care what it costs. I'm going to hijack and just run game on all of them. So I got the CMO from one company, the lead sales guy from another, the lead installer from another. And I just started sniping people because I look at my job as an entrepreneur moving into a new space. I need to surround myself with just badass consultants that can feed into me how I can actually scale this business quickly. Because I know when you start a new business, that first year is the vitally most important scale, right? If you don't get speed and momentum and culture being built and lots of sales energy going on, like I see it happen all the time with entrepreneurs. They take so long trying to get it all right that the momentum is just lame and
figure it out sometimes as you go.
Yeah, and it's just so slow, and it's like they wonder why it's like so frictional. And I don't like doing that. I'm like, if I can't get to a couple $100,000 in the first month or two, like I don't even want to do the business. I just want to throw gasoline on it, turn on the marketing engine, bring in the sales killers, and let's fucking roll. And so that's what we did. And it's funny too, because now I hired all these badasses. I don't even have income yet. And I'm already at probably $35,000 a month in overhead, like instantly. But it's a good investment because we're about to turn everything on. I bet you in my first month, we'll do 150,000. I bet you any amount of money. Month one, I'll do 150K. It'll cost me probably that 30K in hard overhead and 10 grand in ad spend, and I'll do 150K.
Really?
Yeah, easily.
I love it.
Easily. But I'm looking at the business now. We're now 60 days in or whatever to like running this thing and getting it off the ground. I have SOPs, flow charts, documents, like the whole business is modeled out in front of me. I'm just looking at it. I'm like, I know every step of every part of the operation. I know I have my relationships with all my financing companies, so I can roll up to a customer and say, hey, I'll install your floor for no payments, no interest for 24 months. The sale is going to be so fucking easy. And think about it. Nobody's moving right now. You can't move. It's really hard.
It's a great time.
In a high interest rate environment. Nobody wants to sell and there's nowhere to go if they do. Right? Because everything's so expensive. Every housewife in Arizona is looking at their husband and saying, you promised me you were going to get me a new house. But since we're not, you need to replace the floors.
Floor daddy en route.
You need to replace the kitchen. So at the same time, I'm setting up all this infrastructure and learning from all these badasses that I stole. I went to a guy in North Carolina that was running a $2.5 million a month flooring business. He's in North Carolina and in Georgia, multi-state. And I cold called and I said, listen, you're the biggest advertiser in these two states. I want to hire you as my personal CEO coach. And he's like, kid, I don't coach. I run flooring businesses. Like, that's not my business. I don't even know how to coach. Like, I'm just a CEO of my own company that I run. And I'm like, that's exactly why I want to hire you. I said, do you have plans to exit? He goes, I've already had multiple offers. I told him, no, I need to scale it to like 3.5, 4 million a month. And then I'm going to exit. And I said, okay. I said, I'll make you a deal. I'll pay you 15 grand a month to be my personal CEO coach. He said, you're going to pay me 15 grand a month? I said, what do I got to do? I said, just talk to me for like maybe an hour a week. If you do that, and then eventually it can go to an hour every 2 weeks. Why are you doing this? And I said, because you're going to buy me for $150 million. He's like, what do you mean? I'm not going to buy you. I said, yes, you are, because you're going to get a much higher evaluation. I'm going to build my company exactly how you want me to build it. You're going to give me the consulting playbook of every right move you've ever made, every bad move you ever made, all your financing partners, any quality products that you use, I want to see behind the scenes, the nuts and bolts of your operation, so I can mirror your best attributes. And you're going to consult me over the next year, maybe 18 months. And I'm going to get to $1.5 million, $2 million a month. And when that moment happens, we're rolling up and we're selling to private equity. He's like, you're fucking a smart guy. I'm like, yeah, because I've been turned on to this idea that I don't really give a fuck about the flooring business. I just want to scale this business and exit it in 3 years or less. And once I understood that, I was like, oh, I bought kitchen daddy, solar daddy, cabinet daddy, flooring daddy, all the daddies. Because I'm like, I'm going to create a lead gen ecosystem that refers business to my own companies, my sister companies. That way they all kind of grow at the same time. Because if I'm already in your house, I'm closing, right? I'm closing you on the floor. I'm going to close you on the kitchen. I'm going to close you on solar, right? And so that's like the big vision of like, how do I create a value proposition that a private equity firm would love it if I rolled in and said, I'm doing $1.5 million a month. My mentor is doing now 3 million a month. You can get both of us for 400 million. Let's roll.
That's a nice exit.
That would be nice,
and
right?
It's those the home-based services are like hot right now. From what I've been told.
Well, I know the guy from I can't say the name, but one of the largest flooring companies. They exited in 2017 for $214 million.
Yep.
My friend Tommy Mello from A1 Garage Door Services just got a massive injection. I think it was like 90 million or 95 million. I don't know the exact number of private equity for a small percentage ownership in his. Like he just took some skin off the table.
Yeah. I went and bought like 6 months ago, Happy Day Solar. I shit you not.
Yeah. It's a great business.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great business.
It's the same model though. It's like the model. Well, it's sales, marketing, and then as long as you can handle the fulfillment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wish me luck. You know, you never know. Shit. It sounds good in theory, my play. But even if I only exited for 50 million, 30 million, 40 million. Well, it'd be a massive win for me.
And you get to put another ring on, man. How many people actually get to exit a business? Like that is ultimately a goal of mine. I was 60 days away. Like me and my wife were pulling our kids out of school. We were moving to Hawaii for like a year to figure out what we were going to do with life after that. And when it all got it's like when you do a damn wholesale deal and right before closing, everything goes to hell in a handbasket. It was the same thing, but on a much bigger scale.
I can't even imagine that. I'd be so pissed. The injustice of it all.
So for a year and a
really
half,
rough.
it was hard for me. It was, I was real bitter. It was poor me. Why'd this happen to me? And then when I was able to switch, and it took a while, I was very negative for about a year and a half over all of it. I hated the world. And when I was able to switch that, and I don't know if it was the day that attorney looked at me in the eyes and said, if you can make it through this, you can make it through anything. But I was like, I was no longer the victim. I'm like, all right, you just lit a fire under my ass. Now it's time to go do it again, but smarter, faster, and harder, right?
Yeah, that's good.
So
it's tough when you get your ass kicked, especially when it's not your fault. It's hard. You want to get out of that place, but it's so hard to do it.
Yes.
You're just, and I think winners have a bounce back spirit, and eventually you wake up in the right side of the bed. I know for me, I was always the little bitch that cried and complained and kicked and screamed and did the poor as me thing. Yeah. And it was always my girl who got fed up with it one day and kind of said, enough's a fuck enough, buddy. Get your ass up out of your fucking bed, put your boots back on, because I'm not being with some little bitch my whole life. Like, get your shit together. And it's like, you're mad, right? You're like, fuck you. What do you know? You don't know shit. And then the next day you're like, she's right.
Yeah.
God, she's right. And then you go back at it and you get back, you realize, I could have gotten out of that funk so much faster. But sometimes it takes an external ass kicking, especially from your girl.
Yeah. That's exactly how it happened. It's crazy you're even telling the story.
I know that's how it happens.
Dude, it was
It's the story of every male entrepreneur that's got his ass kicked.
It was 9:00 on a Wednesday in the morning. I'm still in bed. She comes in. She's like, what the fuck are you doing still in bed?
Yep.
It's like, she's like, go out and do something.
Yep.
And it was the last straw that broke the camel's back. And that's when I jumped into wholesaling.
Yeah, it pays to have a good woman. So what's working for you in wholesaling right this second? Like if you were to look at your business and you go, dude, my lead gen is on point, or we're just better on the phones than everybody else. Like we just smoke all our competition. Like what is it about your wholesaling business that's working?
Good question. So I can keep it simple. Like for 2.5 years, we've ran off absentee owner data, literally for 2.5 years. We just kept our home values at 330,000 and under because I looked at
affordable housing, cheaper houses.
I looked at all the offers accepted for my first year and and the average offer accepted was 177,000. So I was like, I could go play in these big houses that are 500, 600, 700 grand, but let me just niche it down and I'll stay in my honey hole. And so I would say we just ran off absentee owner data. When I jumped into the space, Cody, I went to a couple masterminds and events, and it opened my eyes real quick to my biggest challenge in this industry was going to be separating myself from all the other calls they got, because this industry is full of I'm shocked at how many are out there of inexperienced salespeople.
They're so awful.
It's the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And sometimes the guys even, teaching or that are on these stages or holding mass, I'm like, man, they are teaching a broken system. So when I came into this space, I came in, and this is answering your question. Why do you think, or what's working? I preach, put yourself in the consumer's shoe for just 30 days of what they have to go through with this industry. And if you can have any, if you were them for 30 days and you got a call from us, I would fucking hang up on you immediately. Sorry. Knowing you were calling to talk about my house. So for me, it was, how do I separate myself from the years of abuse this industry have done to these homeowners?
So what, you just got like magic openers, takeaways, reversals?
I have a 5-step sales process that I brought to this industry that it's catching on now. People are using all my shit. And I'm glad for that. Welcome
to the club.
Yeah, they are repurposing my shit like no other.
That means you're doing something right, though.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I read a book called Steal Like an Artist many, many years ago. It's like fantastic, short read. When you find something, especially from a guy who was killing it at sales like you, of course I want to steal it. I want to understand it. I want to implement it.
Yep.
So what's the 5 steps? 5
steps is in the beginning, because again, we do everything virtually. I don't go out to these houses. 100% of our business is virtual. In 2.5 years, we've done 7.5 million, almost 400 contracts. And so the 5 steps, and I say that because I'm going to explain everything we do over a telephone, is 1 is the intro. You want to immediately set clear intentions on this call. They're going to get one of 2 things. They're either going to get an approval with an offer or a denial with a reason. So we let them know in the beginning, we're going to see if your property qualifies for our program, because you call somebody and they're always saying, oh, my house is the hottest house on the block. Everyone's calling me about it. So we want to separate ourselves in the beginning saying, your property actually might not qualify for us. So we're different in the beginning. We set clear expectations. We get them engaged. Every person that we get on the phone, we have them grab a pen, paper. We have them jot all of our information down. We have them write our closer's name, our website, our company name, telephone number. After we have them write the telephone number down, we say, can you please repeat that for me, so we know they're doing what we've asked them to do.
You sound like you've done this before in the old timeshare world.
I use the same pitch.
Yeah.
Literally the same pitch. And I had 100 guys using this.
Yeah.
So that's step 1. Step 1 typically takes anywhere from 1 minute to 1.5 minutes. I time all my steps. That way my closer, by the time they get to their first hold, they've been on the phone about 25 minutes. So after the step 1, we go into step 2, which is the fact finding that pain point. You want to spend, I try and keep all of them in that space for about 7, 8, 9 minutes.
So just question asking, just trying to pull out.
Trying to figure out why. Why do they continue to answer these crazy phone calls? Why have they spent 3 to 5 minutes with 100 different VA companies? Why are they still on the phone with you listening to what you're saying when they've heard it 100 times? There's a reason. The thing I love about phone sales, if they haven't clicked the little red button on the phone, they're interested in what you're saying. So it's your job to get that out of them. So we spend 5 minutes in that. I'm real big on third-party stories when it comes to trying to extract information. Like if someone says, I'm done being a landlord, what's crazy is the last 3 properties that I got qualified, Cody, it was from retired landlords, even though every house we buy is from a retired landlord. Use a third-party story. I attach it to a problem. I attach the money we were able to get them to a problem we could fix. I loop back around and I say, I understand you don't want to be a landlord, but why? After I just told a story, trying to get them to talk to me. We stay there for about 7 minutes. We go into the pitch, which is we always go outside, then inside. We don't use the word upgrades or anything like that in our pitches. We spend about 10 to 15 minutes on the property itself. Again, step 2 being fact find never stops. That goes all the way to the close. Once we're in the house, we talk about the exterior, interior. We don't ask questions that everybody asks. What's the age of your roof? What's the age of your AC? And what upgrades have you done? We don't ask any of those questions in our pitch. We wait till the very end to ask those because I want to, those questions have been asked so many times to these people. I don't want to trigger an emotion that, man, this guy's just like the last guy. So I don't talk about the roof, the AC, or upgrades until we get done with the pitch. And then I say, hey, Cody, I appreciate all the time that you've given me. My underwriters have actually been looking at all this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get up from my desk real quick. I'm going to put you on a quick hold and I'm going to run back to their office and I'm going to see where their head's at. It's going to be real quick. They're going to give me a yes or a no. I'll either have a number for you or they're going to give me a reason why. It doesn't meet our buy box. So just bear with me just one moment. Again, I'm going to get up. I'm going to run. I'm not going to hang up the phone. I'm just going to put you on a hold. But I want to set the stage of I'm getting up from my desk and I'm running down the hallway when all I do is mute my phone. And we sit there and listen to them for 3 minutes. And the reason is in these calls, you've asked a ton of questions. How much do you want for your house? Is your spouse on board? What's the real reason why you're selling? They're never going to give you the full truth. They're going to give you very surface level answers. So when you put them on hold, but you've planted those seeds of why, your spouse, how long have you been wanting to sell? All the stuff we have to figure out to truly close a deal. And you put them on hold. If the husband and wife are there, they immediately start talking and they start answering questions they didn't give us. So now I have a price. Now I have the real motivation. Now I have all this stuff because I'm just a fly on the wall in their house listening to them. So I come back from the 3-minute hold and I say, you know what? I don't have good news. I don't have bad news. They actually had a couple more questions and I apologize. They weren't able to fully underwrite or qualify the deal without knowing the age of the roof, the AC, and blah, blah, blah. So I get those. And then I do my trial close. If they can get you approved and the numbers make sense, can we get this done now? I don't say today because today could be later tonight. I use the word now. I say, I'm going to run back there again real quick. My apologies. I'm going to put you on another quick hold. We put them on hold for 3 minutes again. And then we go into the offer, which is step 4. When we come back, it was approved. I have them grab the pen and paper again, and I have them write down a virtual withdrawal number. And the virtual withdrawal number is literally a made up number to make them feel like their property was qualified and the money has been set aside and it's waiting for them to close. Because I am one of 7 acquisition managers on the phone, and we got to keep track of how much money's been offered, how much has been accepted, and how much is still available. So that number actually reserves the offer that I'm getting ready to make for you. So they write the number down. They repeat the number back to us. Again, if someone's...
So this is the number that you are offering them?
Nope. Virtual withdrawal number is a number. Every lead that comes into my CRM comes with a unique property ID number. So I have them write that number down.
Got it. So this is just like an internal, number.
Tactic.
Yeah, that makes them feel like, okay, my property's associated with file number.
And it's been approved because of this number.
Yeah.
So we can leverage that number at the very end if they say, I need to think about it. And you've gotten 3, I need to think about it. We can say, listen, that number, I'd have to go back to the underwriters or finance department and see if they'd be willing to actually keep that open for 24 hours. So before I go back there, do you just want me to have them release the money, or do you really want them to keep this number? And you will, if you use this process and you give enough virtual withdrawal numbers out, people are calling back saying, is my virtual withdrawal number still open?
No way. That's
when you stick to a process.
Yeah.
So I believe the reason for the success is, one, I have a sales process that I know is tried and true from another industry that I brought over here. My entire team is bought into the process and everyone's having just great success with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it's great when there's, first off, professionals use scripts. Professionals have a process.
I have a 12-page script.
Yeah, they're not out there winging it.
Nope.
People always trip out when I hand them like a detailed script. They're like, am I supposed to read this? And I'm like, you're supposed to read it so many freaking times that you internalize it and you don't even, nobody can tell you're ever reading anything.
Yep.
And you've now, obviously, you're doing this off the top of your head. So you've internalized it so much. Every person listening to this that's wondering, why am I not getting any more deals? You're not getting more deals because a guy like Eric's coming right behind you and fucking getting the deal. Like it's just a skills game.
Yeah.
And all right. So you would say your secret sauce is just on the phones. You guys are just monsters.
We have an amazing process.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have separated ourselves from the noise.
Okay. So now you're going direct to seller. Is that most of your deals direct to seller?
100% of them.
Okay. So you're locking up all these deals. How's Dispo going for you right now?
Great question again. So when the market pivoted, I would say 75% of what we're doing right now is flat fee MLS.
Okay. So you're novating.
Not novating. We use a third-party service. We throw the deal on the MLS for cash buyers.
Okay, so you're not no financing. You have to pay cash, but just done through the MLS.
Yeah.
So you have just a little thing in your contract that says I have the right to market this property on the
attorney
MLS.
in fact.
Attorney in fact.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And that's where that's where
it's the largest buyers platform in the U.S.
Got it. So you're using just in what states are you in?
Right now we're in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Indiana, and Ohio. We're getting rid of Ohio and Florida. And we're going to be in 4 states. We're going to be in North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina. Our top 3 have always been North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. North Carolina being our number 1 state. So we're going to add South Carolina.
Where are you out of?
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah, so you know that state really well.
You want to know what's crazy? It just so happens to be our best state.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has anything to do.
We do well in North Carolina.
It's a great state.
Yeah, we do well in North. We do all those states you said are our big states.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Number 1, so 2 lead sources are cold calling and paid ads. Cold calling has been our number 1 lead generation since inception of the company. All of last year, 2023, we were 31 leads to a contract. We would fund on roughly 45 to 50% of them. And on cold calling ad spend, we would get a 10x return.
That's beautiful. And if you're putting, let's call it 10 houses under contract a month, are you putting out earnest deposit on every single one of those and floating all that earnest deposit?
We are not. We put $100 earnest money on all of our contracts. So yeah.
Now I just wanted to pull that out of you just to make sure people understood, like, you don't have to have, $50,000 a month floating in earnest deposits to play this game at scale. You can.
Not at all.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yep.
Well, how big's your team right now?
So we are at, I believe 16, 17. We have 5 full-time acquisitions, 3 full-time dispo. We just hired a sales manager that started last Monday. We have a closing coordinator, a full-time TC. We have a full-time MLS coordinator, I think is her title, where her entire day is filled with throwing properties on the MLS for us. And then it's myself, my wife, and our partner, Tony.
What advice would you give for somebody who's new that's just trying to break into the business? They saw a video of you, heard about wholesaling, something out there where they're like, oh, this no money down real estate thing sounds really sexy. I want to get into it. What advice would you give to them to help them get their career started?
It's sales and marketing. Like, it's not real estate. So what you want to do, however you're going to generate your leads, is you want one to understand how to talk to a homeowner. You want to have a process that you go off of. You're absolutely going to get your teeth kicked in. And in the very, very, very beginning, hard work is going to be what pays the bills for you. Hard work. So if you're going to generate your lead by knocking doors, or you're the cold caller, you got enough. I don't know many people that get into it with no money. Usually you might have to have a little bit of money to get into this to make it go faster and harder for you. But just know it's sales and marketing. So have a sales process. I actually have free sales training out there that can help separate you from the competition. And I would say make as many offers as humanly possible in the beginning. Maybe you get lucky and get that person that says yes. But the first deal is probably going to be your hardest deal because you are going to doubt it. You're going to think it's fake. You're going to think all these numbers people are saying are fake until someone actually says yes to you. And when that first yes pops, everything else usually gets easier.
I like it. I would add, get proximity to somebody already winning.
Already winning.
Right? You got to get that proximity so you can kind of learn from that person,
Yes.
study their power moves.
Yes.
There's a blueprint out there. You don't have to figure it all out on your own. And I would try to find how I can add value to them. So if I was trying to learn this business, I'd find a Cody, I'd find an Eric, and I'd say, what's the number one thing you need? Well, bring me a deal and I'll pay attention to you.
Yep.
Great. So what are you looking for in a deal? I'd find out what they're looking for. I'd say, what state you want me to focus on, point me in a little bit of direction. And then I'd dip out. I wouldn't even talk to you again until I showed back up with the deal.
I love that.
And I would keep showing up with deals until you were forced to either mentor me or give me a shot or put me on the squad or something like that. So I can earn and learn at the same time.
I love that advice because I usually don't, you obviously you get a ton of people that reach out to you, but I love that. Go find a deal, bring it to me, and we can talk.
Yeah. I get a lot of people who reach out to me every day, probably at a minimum of between 40 to 60 a day.
I'm sure.
Like it's every day of the week.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's always the same pitch. There's been really 2 people ever that showed up with the right pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those people ended up being business partners with me.
Really?
And they were both 17 years old.
Love it.
Every other dumbass, especially the adults that are think they know everything, they all show up saying the same thing right in the front door. Will you mentor me? Will you pay attention to me? I have a business idea. What can I run it by you? Whatever their dumb idea is. It's like, no, bro, I'm not even going to respond to this because I value my time more than I give 2 shits about you.
Yeah.
I don't know you. We're not homies. I don't owe you anything.
Yeah.
Cut a fucking check and I'll pay attention to you, or bring me a deal and I'll pay attention to you. But the 2 young kids, they didn't ask me anything. And the worst one is, tell me how I can earn a spot in your world.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be like, bro, if I do that, I'm doing your job for you.
Right.
Like, you got to have some ability to figure some portion of this out on your own. And that portion is what those 2 kids did is they studied me. They watched all my lives. They watched all my stuff. They went through bought my courses, went through everything. They didn't ask me for a single thing for a long time. And they found out my interests, my focus, the things I'm talking about. And they got out in front of that conversation. And they just showed up one day with the knowledge, knowing what I need.
Yeah.
And they solved a problem for me. And I went, interesting. You're so and they just kept consistently doing that. And they're so consistent that they force you to recognize them and learn their name and go, all right, what the fuck do you really want?
Right.
I want proximity. And I even pushed back even when they said that. And I said, you don't want proximity. And the first one said, I'll do anything. And I said, great, go evict this tenant for me. And that was the first job I gave
And they did it.
him. And he went and fucking did it. Actually, he almost did it. He went to the tenant. He was 17 years old, by the way. He never had done any business in his life. But he was gone for 3 days. And I thought I'd never hear from him again. You know,
The 17-year-old.
The 17-year-old.
Got it.
I thought I scared the shit out of him because I'll do anything to get proximity to you. It's like, okay, great. Go evict this non-paying tenant. And they're like, I got to kick somebody out of their house? Like, yeah. And don't come back until you do it. And then 3 days later, he came back and he said, I wasn't able to do it. I couldn't kick him out. I said, well, real estate's not for everybody.
Right.
And he said, but I did collect your payment for you.
Rent check.
Rent check.
Really?
And I said, all right, you can keep coming around. You can keep hanging out. I like you. And it ended up being a great move for me. And for 7 years, we worked together, and he worked his way up from non-paying, Cody Sperber's little bitch up to full-fledged 50% partner with me in our business.
I love it.
And now he's off on his own, and he's the largest wholesaler in the country.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's the founder of Keegley.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. His name's Josiah. And he also founded the education company that publishes Pace Morby and everybody else.
Really?
So he studied the education thing from me. He studied the real estate thing from me. Yeah. Yeah. Austin Zabek was another one. He bought all my mentoring, went through all my programs, kept showing up, kept bringing me deals, became not only one of my number one students, but he also became somebody who just kept serving over and over and over in the beginning, and just was relentless, would not leave me the hell alone, and just kept bringing me value. And it's like, you're like, here we go again, another young gunner that is forcing me to pay attention to them. And he ended up becoming a full-fledged partner with me. And now he owns, I think it's called One Roof. And he's one of the largest wholesalers in Arizona. I think he's doing, 50, 60 deals a month, every month.
Really?
Crushing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge real estate team.
Love it.
But it all started with them doing the one thing that none of the other knuckleheads did. And that's just studying the moves.
Mm-hmm.
Rich people value their time more than they do
Of course.
anything else. Yeah. Wow. Well, a lot of good lessons in this conversation.
It's been a good one, man.
Yeah. How do people get a hold of you?
Really, Instagram, the Eric Clein. I'm just now starting to get into YouTube, and
You're building your brand.
I'm like 12 months into really trying to build a brand. This year, I'm trying to go a little harder on it. Not trying, I'm going to.
Yeah, you should.
Yes.
Yeah, you should. It's the one thing that allows me to straddle multiple businesses and industries. And I told Pace Morby this behind the scenes. He was doing such a fantastic job scaling his community and his brand and all that stuff. And I said, you're missing the reason for it all. And he's like, well, what's the reason for it all? He wanted to know what my thought was. I said, you think it's for selling education or enrolling people into your community and doing more real estate deals. Your real thing is raising capital. Power players raise money. And if you want to be playing the real estate game at the highest levels, it's not the person that's the best technically at real estate or the best teacher in real estate. It's the best person that can raise capital for real estate. And that's the real play behind the scenes and why you want to build a brand. So if it costs you, let's say it cost you $250,000 to get 1 million legit followers on Instagram, would it be worth it?
Yes.
Of course it would, if you knew how to monetize that following.
Right.
And the monetization isn't slinging a course or, even doing a real estate deal, which both of those are fine. And I know I did it. I have a lot of friends that did it. But the real play is setting up $100 million fund and then going buying $500 million worth of real estate with it. Now you're a real player.
Right.
You're not doing it's like you're not even thinking about the investment into your brand as anything other than I'm going to go raise $100 million in the next 18 months. And that's the play.
Yep.
Now you want to throw $250,000 at your brand to scale it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why when you walk around my office, you're like, geez, how many cameras in recording studios and things do you have? It's like, because I wanted to create an environment where whenever I'm feeling inspired, wherever there's a conversation happening, I could just capture it. Let's go and get that thing out there for the world, because they're as cool as your 5 techniques to thing is, they really want to get to know you. Like I resonated with when we started this video, I thought we were going to do a YouTube video for your YouTube channel. I'm right now about to close a podcast because I want your story on my podcast. So, we're spinning this content into, I'm going to put you on my show now, which I've had a lot of really big guests on my show. But I resonate with your actual story way more than I do your techniques and step. Because now, I'm kind of falling in love with your family, with you, your story. You're in the military. We got that going for both of us. I don't even know, when did we start recording this? Did we capture all that? conversation?
Was it?
Beautiful. I love that. And we'll edit out any parts that we're not supposed to have in here. But that's the brand. That's how you build the brand. And if you see where social is going right now, you're going to notice it's more people being interviewed about their opinion and their lifestyle and how they think about things than it is about, let me show you 3 ways wealthy people avoid taxes. And it's like this structured, rigid, like, kind of cookie cutter content. Now it's like dude, how the fuck did you not go back to doing drugs after you lost your business and got your ass kicked?
Right.
Like
it was a thought.
I would have been right there on the edge going, fuck this.
Yep.
I have everything I just lost, all my momentum. I'm never going to get it back. How's it, I would have been in that despair state.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
For a while. And I remember her, when Shyla and I, we weren't good at, it's not that we were good at getting people even out of the time. It was because when that got taken, I was like, man, did we just get lucky? Like that's what I thought. Did we just get lucky? And then it was, all right, what systems did we have? What processes did we have? Where else can we go and leverage that? And that's what happened.
Yeah.
So,
and well, hopefully I see you a year from now, 2 years from now with this mega brand, not just teaching people how to do real estate and sales, but using it to raise capital and put it into really great real estate projects. Because, unfortunately, people don't have a lot of financially literate friends that have ever even made $8 million in a year, let alone will in their lifetime.
Right.
And so it's important for us on social media, if we're going to use the platform for good, to at least teach them something about money and how to manage it properly. And then even after you show them through, and by the way, you got to get out of residential. You have to get into commercial. Like residential is for newbies. And that's just, it is what it is.
I get it.
It sucks to say because I was the residential guy for 20 years, but it's true. It's true. Commercials where the big money and the big players are. So every person listening to this is like, fine, do your wholesaling, do your rehabbing, own some rental property, and immediately fire yourself from all that shit and go get into the real leagues, which is commercial.
Well, that's us bringing I've been a sales manager for 2.5 years on this model. We just hired a sales manager for me to be able to get my time back.
Okay, but even that, let me give you the path. Ready? Here's the blueprint for you. This is real simple. Wholesale commercial. Stop fucking around with houses. Why do a $10,000 assignment when you could do a $110,000 assignment?
$10,000.
Self-storage, RV parks, small apartments, small office medical buildings, single tenant, triple net lease stuff. We have a new offer that we came out with at Clever Investor called 6-figure assignments. So over in my suite, I met a guy a couple years ago. His name is Trent. And Trent was originally in residential. And then all of a sudden he stopped doing residential. He's like, oh, I'm wholesaling commercial. I'm like, okay. I've wholesaled commercial, but just by accident, like a multifamily deal will come into my world or like some shitty little old 1940s office building in Podunk, Phoenix would come up and I'd flip it. And I never really thought of it as like wholesaling commercial. But I'm like, my biggest deals were the time I about 2 years ago, we wholesaled an old Motel 6 on the side of the freeway between here and Tucson. And a guy bought it and converted it into an apartment building and then sold off the parking lot, rented out the parking lot to somebody else to like do like car sales or some shit. And he made a fortune from it. And we made a fortune. It was like probably a $100K flip. And I remember thinking back when I was watching Trent, I'm like, God, that's all he does is these big ass 6-figure assignments. So we moved him into this office space so I could have proximity to him so I could figure out what he's doing. And I've been watching him for 2 years and I'm like, oh, that's way better than residential. Let's transition our internal business over to wholesaling commercial. And so the 2 types of commercial that's the best to wholesale is RV parks and self-storage facilities. And we have software called the Deal Automator, and there's a commercial edition of it where I can get all the commercial data in the entire country fed into our Deal Automator system. So I can go in and pull, let's say, every self-storage facility in Arizona. North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I might say, show me everyone in here. And there might be, let's call it 490 self-storage facilities in the Phoenix metro area. Okay. It's 500 leads. It's not like residential where I'm working 5 million leads or 50,000 leads. It's like we got 500 people. We got to just work and work and work and work and work. But we get one and we're going to make $100, $200, $300,000 on this transition. And I can very easily sort and go, all right, I want to see all the self-storage that's owned by an individual, not a business.
Right.
And that narrows it from 500 to 50. Right. And like even the 450 that are left, it's like, okay, which ones are owned by just one business? Like meaning they only own one self-storage, not 30. They're not a huge company. They're just like a mom and pop that owns an LLC. And then we have this premium skip tracing where we can break that corporate veil, get their personal phone numbers, get their personal email addresses, all with the click of a button, and call them up. And it's the same exact process. Different way to analyze the deal, kind of different marketing and packaging on the back end because your buyer is different, right?
Of course,
your buyer needs like a legit marketing package around it. Yeah. You got to collect all the information and it's a higher, more sophisticated sale. And it takes a little longer. It takes about, 2 months to turn one.
Got it.
Right? Because it takes like, full 30, 40 days of just gathering the information, building the trust with the seller, following up with everything, gathering all that. And then it takes like another month or two to close it. So it's a longer tail, but a much bigger payday.
Yeah, the spreads are much bigger.
But the same amount of energy. And that's when I was like, oh, fuck. I need to be, if I'm going to do any wholesaling, I want to do wholesaling commercials. So then I documented everything he did and I created 6-figure assignments. And we haven't really launched it yet. We just did like a little internal one. It's starting to roll out now. So if anybody listening ever sees 6-figure assignments with Trent, I highly recommend taking a look at it because it's a life-changing thing and the way we're structuring it is for your first few deals, just partner with Trent.
Really?
Right? It'd be like me coming to you and saying, teach me wholesaling. And you're like, yeah, I can do that. And you can buy my course over here. But the reality is, if you just bring me a deal and we partner on that deal and I flip it to one of my buyers and we make $30K and I give you 15 and I keep 15, you're going to learn way more through that process than me just telling you my 5-step process.
Yeah.
Same thing with commercial. In the beginning, people feel like commercial's so scary and overwhelming when it's really not.
Yeah, it's just understanding the numbers, right? Yeah,
because it's like income-based comping, right? It's just different of how they analyze it and value it. But it's funny because a lot of these old, like if I went to North Carolina, Tennessee, some of these self-storage facilities are like in a field in the middle of nowhere, right? And it's just been like poorly ran by a lady who's her husband owned it. He passed. She's kept it in the family for the next 10, 15 years. She doesn't really know what to do with it. It just kind of is a little cash thing for her, but they own it free and clear. And
those are the good ones.
Those are the good, and they're everywhere.
Right.
They're all over the place. And so the same thing, you don't go to it. It's all done over the phone, all done virtually. So you could do these in a bunch of different states.
Even the bigger deals.
Now, I'm not talking about like a Class A self-storage facility owned by a major corporation.
Yeah.
You're not going to probably get one of those.
When dealing with that situation.
Yes.
Woman inherited all that.
You're going to call her and she's going to be contacted by, there's probably going to be between 5 to 15 commercial real estate agents that have been working that lead for a long time. But you're better at talking. It's no different than every other wholesaler in town trying to contact a seller for high equity absentee owner.
Yeah.
But now we're just talking to a self-storage lady who maybe has 60% of the storage facility rented out and the rest is just sitting there and she doesn't give a shit.
Right.
That kind of thing. But the play is, oh, wow, she's not even maximizing this land. You could put another whole 2 rows of self-storage on here, lift the value, renovate it. Like people see that mismanaged asset and they're like, oh, I can double the income from this real quick.
Yep.
And they'll pay you a lot for it.
Of course.
A couple $100,000 for finding that deal. So anyway, that's my challenge to you. Raise capital, get into commercial.
Get in commercial.
There you go.
Appreciate that, man.
All right. Well, and they can find you by, what'd you say your social was?
At the Eric Clein.
All right, guys, go follow Eric. Thank you for sharing your story.
Appreciate it.
We turned this into a Clever Investor Show episode. So now there you go. We'll put you on the big stage.
Thank you.
Hopefully you guys got some value from this. Until next time, we're out of here. Take care. Comb your hair. Peace.